Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec podcast, where we triple your impact per engineer and create world-class organizations. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and consultant for tech executives worldwide, and our subject today is Immutable Organizations. Before we get to that, I just want to wish you a Happy New Year. I hope that 2022 will be a lot better than 2021. And remember that just a year ago, we were all just so anxious and waiting for 2020 to be over. But hey, this COVID thing seems to have a few more surprises up its sleeve. And nevertheless, I do think that we're getting better at it. I hope that you, your family, your loved ones are all safe. And I'm wishing you an amazing year. I'm actually starting it quite well, even though it's just January 2nd as I'm recording, because I already have some nice successes. And I'm wishing you the same. So, now let's get into this week's topic. I think a key aspect for discerning the good executives from the great ones is whether you are able of implementing, of executing on what you're talking about. Because I see so many people nowadays who seem to be constantly thinking, evaluating, considering, learning. You see them on Twitter. You see them everywhere. People are attending conferences, reading books, going to workshops. But if at the end of the day, you do all that consumption and you don't change anything in your day-to-day, nothing actually comes out of those efforts, then you are missing the point. The point is not to amass knowledge. The point is to put that into work, to actually execute on what you're learning in order to improve your state, improve your company. And a problem that I see is so many companies that, especially with COVID and all sorts of made-up excuses, have succumbed to becoming immutable organizations. Nothing ever changes. They're not implementing anything that will get them any better. And I'm guessing you've been part of meetings where you have a retrospective, but there are no action items at the end of it. You think back, how was 2021? And yet you take no action. You decide on nothing new. You just have a nice summary. And the problem with that is that, again, if you don't take action, if you don't create the momentum, you're not going to get any better. Things that are not improving, in my experience, end up just getting worse and worse. So stop putting on a show of learning, reading, trying. If you're not actually doing stuff, if you're not changing things, if you're not making your team try different stuff, you're not going to get any better. You're not going to improve. And frankly, I believe that just putting on a show of we're trying to try new stuff, we're considering it, let's talk about it, and not doing anything actually erodes your trust, your credit with your team a lot faster. Because if you try and make it seem as if you're learning and investing in new ideas and thinking about stuff and nothing even happens, that's worse than just saying we're not gonna try. Because at least the latter makes people realize that you believe you know what you're doing. I've seen people follow CEOs intent on not changing, even though things weren't perfect, even though some people had their problems. But the CEO said, no, this is how I'm doing it. So it's either my way or, the highway. Go find another company, there's plenty. And I saw people follow those leaders more than those other CEOs and leaders I've seen who constantly said that they're trying to make things better, constantly talked about finding new ways of doing stuff, and yet did nothing in practice. Now, I don't attribute this to any malice. It's not like anyone here listening is saying, yeah, we're considering stuff, but you're not actually doing it. You're just saying it so people stop bugging you. I know that's probably not why you're doing this. We all tend to fall into analysis paralysis. We consider too many things. You have too many things on your plate, and that prevents you from making any forward motion. So right now, to kick off 2022 in a right way, let's consider what are some of the topics where you've been considering what should you be doing in the past 2, 3, 4 months. My bet, if you're similar to the rest of my clients, is that you have quite a list of things that are on your plate that you're considering, that you know need to be improving, and yet too many are stuck. I hate it when I work with someone and I see that the same topics seem to be coming up week after week after week without any actual improvement. There are just still items on the list, but no action has been taken. So let's start with reducing the list so you're not overwhelmed. You're only allowed to have 2 things, and out of those 2, one of them is yours. You are the champion. You are the person in charge of it. You can have one more if you can identify someone in your organization that can be the champion and you're just helping them along. Pick those 2. For those 2, pick 2 action items. And action items are not meetings. Action items are, what are we going to change? What are we going to achieve? Do you need to make a decision? Do you need to learn something specific? Do you need to make a specific hire? Whatever that is, create those specific goals, specific action items. Have dates on them, because otherwise they're never going to happen. And then make those known. Make those public so that your organization knows, so the people you manage know, so people around you know. Here's what I'm currently focused on. Here are the first steps we're taking, and let's see how those go. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to slowly waste away your time, not making any changes, eroding your team's credit in you, and eventually creating an organization that is not viable, that is not constantly growing and improving. And as I always tell my clients, life is too short to waste it living in an organization that we have settled on just being average. Don't do that. We have enough average companies. Create an amazing, world-class, brilliant, talented, and highly impactful team. You can do it in 2022. I'm sure you can. If you need any help, if you're considering, oh my God, I've got 10 things, I don't know which 2 to choose, email me. All right, I promise you I'll respond. My email is in the show notes. If you have any questions or comments, same email address, just feel free to reach out to me. If you haven't yet, do subscribe to my newsletter. It's the best newsletter for tech executives online, where I share 3 weekly exclusive insights, as well as this podcast and an article. And sometimes I make announcements there first. And lastly, it's a new year. If you have 2 minutes and you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone or rate it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts at. This is probably the last time I'm going to ask this year. So I'm making one ask. If you're getting any value out of this, share it or review it, because it really helps the show. Thank you. Again, wishing you a stellar 2022, and I'll see you here next week.